Hey, Bulls and Bears. It is Friday, July 16th, 2021, and I'm just trying to survive in California with these rising prices and cost of living just skyrocketing everywhere I look. Now, we've got a lot of news to get into today, and let's start with the stock market. Now, we started seeing some big selling at the end of the day, and there's some big predictions being made that this is the beginning of a larger panic sell-off, or what's called panic selling. And I think there's a few things happening in the economy that may lead investors and maybe even big investors, big money, to start running for the exits. Now we'll have to see what happens in the economy and system when you have endless amounts of fake money that can be pumped into markets. You never know what can happen. But a couple things to keep an eye on. Again, a reminder, the eviction moratorium is coming to an end. The end of July, basically, we'll see how that goes in different cities. It's going to play out differently depending on local help and assistance that's passed, but also credit card surge in spending. Is that part of the enhanced unemployment benefits that about half of the states now have eliminated? All right, so please let me know what you think about that. And what I'm getting at is in these states, about half of the US states where the extra or enhanced unemployment benefits have now been canceled, is this now causing people to have to live more off of credit cards now with that extra boost in their income being canceled? So that's one, I think, part of it for this huge record surge in credit card debt here just recently. Or is it part of just the reopening and more people are going out now, more people traveling? So we'll have to see how that plays out. But let's take a look at the markets today. And we're red across the board with the Dow Jones down nearly 300 points. Now, not a big drop considering all the major moves that we've seen upward here in the past few months and weeks and years. Of course, we saw the big, strong recovery since the shutdown began in March of 2020. But since then, we've seen a record surge, even though the economy really hasn't improved that much. Any improvement that I can see is just from the stimulus and the rescue programs and the extra payouts. Things continue to get worse in many sectors, including agriculture, with all the farms being decimated now with the droughts. And of course, the rising cost of living, that's always a part of it. But let's take a look at today. And actually, let's go to a 5-day chart here on the Dow. We see the Dow held pretty steady up and down over the past week here. The end of today, though, boom, it went from 34,000. We were at a high earlier at the open, about 34,930, and we ended the day at 34,687. So a pretty big drop at the end. And some outlets are describing this as panic selling emerging. Now, is this the beginning of the end of the stock market? I seriously doubt it. Unless something else major happens that's so big that it's going to knock the entire markets off track and knock the Fed off track, I don't think anything's going to stop these markets. But there's a lot of things happening in the works, and we mentioned them, a few of them earlier, but also a lot of things are teaming up, so to speak, or combining. It's a combination of things that are going to lead to higher prices. And I think a lot of people are beginning to wake up, not enough, but at least a few people are waking up to see how wrong the Fed actually is. And we see consumer sentiment now, as far as buying a house or buying an automobile, took a record drop. Let's take a look here. The far right here, home buyer sentiment actually plunges, and this chart goes all the way back to the mid 80s. So this is worse than anything we've seen even right before the housing bubble went bust there. We saw, of course, that big drop right here, 2007, 2008 timeframe. But home builder sentiment, a huge surge upward here in the past few months. Home builders know that money's flowing. People are able to borrow money. Banks are lending. The Fed has the back of the markets, including the housing markets. The Fed's continually keeping mortgage rates suppressed. So, of course, home buyer sentiment is going to be high. But when this debt binge, this borrowing party comes to an end, this is going to be one of the most painful times in American history and probably world history, because we see so many central banks around the world have the same exact playbook, right? Endless lending, endless liquidity for the banks, deregulation of the banks, infinite money creation out of thin air in digital form. And when this comes to an end, again, it's going to be painful. Now, I have a few ideas of what I think is going to stop these markets and stop the money printing. And it's something really, really big. And actually, the subject matter wouldn't even fit on this channel, so I can't really talk about it. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of rules coming down on creators and social media. All right, but we've mentioned here and there things that could really disrupt this entire system and what's known as a black swan event. All right, but again, that does get into some sensitive topics that are no longer allowed to be discussed, in certain platforms. And, it's not my terms and conditions, so I'm sorry that I can't reveal more on that. Right, but let's get into the financial state of the average person, the average consumer. And a reminder, most people have some sort of debt, but let's talk about student loan debt here just for a minute. This is out of Yahoo Finance. Almost nobody is repaying their student loans. Now, yes, there's been a freeze, and there's a deadline at the end of September where people are going to have to start paying their student loans again, but people still have the ability to pay their loans. So if you just wanted to pay off your loan or pay down your debt, even though you don't have to make those payments during this time, which expires at the end of September, hardly anyone's actually doing that right now. So maybe that's a warning sign of how the average consumer is actually doing right now. All right. Or are these students just waiting and seeing what's going to happen with the talks of the debt forgiveness? Right. So who wants to pay down their debt or pay off their loan when you have people pushing for massive debt forgiveness? All right. Can you imagine draining all your savings to try to pay off this debt and all of a sudden they forgive everyone else's debt? That could be a pretty gut-wrenching feeling there. Almost like a kick to the stomach. Just another example of how insane these financial markets are, this economy, all the money printing, all the rescue programs. This is beyond Twilight Zone. And for lack of a better description, a lot of people are going to be getting hurt. And the second half of 2020 is going to be pretty wicked. So be careful out there, folks. Continue to prepare in all ways that you can think of. Because it's going to be some pretty heartbreaking pain that we're going to see here. And I think we're going to start seeing some major things happen. Major things have already happened this year, just as we predicted. But the second half, as we continue to go into the second half of 2021, fasten your seatbelts, everybody. It's going to get crazier. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Prepare, keep stacking, stay well, everybody. Bye for now. Peace.